Welcome to the Fox Theater's Mighty Wurlitzer. The reason why we like to start the tour off with an organ concert is because this instrument, and in theaters like this, are so historically significant. There's only two instruments. There are only two instruments. Good morning, welcome to the Fox Wurlitzer. There's only two instruments that the United States can claim their own. Anybody know what? Theater organ is one. You might know what the other one is. Old Susanna with a banjo on my knee. The banjo's the only other. And so this is a unique sound for us. But this is also unique because this is one of the last instruments in the country that is in the original location and has never been revoiced. A pipe organ can be voiced to sound differently. This is exactly the way it sounded in 1929. All of the working parts have been restored. In a theater organ, reason why it's called a theater organ is because it made it to the theater. But it was originally designed for a church by a man called Robert Hope Jones. And he wanted to kind of break that staid, very staunch Anglican sound that was in the 1800s, and he came up with a orchestral sound. He presented it to the church, they hated it, they deported him, and when he came to the United States, who met him at the boat dock but Farney Wurlitzer? At a particular time in America's history when the movies were coming on real strong. And as you can tell, 80-piece orchestra can sit here, very expensive because they were union musicians already by the 20s. So the theater owners figured out they could pay one man, sorry, back then it was predominantly men, one person to play the organ and not have to pay all these musicians. So the theater organ is based on the church organ. This is a church organ sound, okay, very straight. But they took it and they added tremolos to give it a very rich sound. And then they also increased the wind pressure. This is much more punchy and you can play things faster on this. And I've always said if the theater organ would have made it into the church, after the offertory would have found out we'd have made a whole lot more money. But we have different sounds and they're all orchestral. When you see the names on these little tongue depressors, they match instruments in the orchestra. This is the brass trumpets. This is all the flutes. And then we have little stringy sounds. And what this pipe is made out of, it's going to sound, the more lead in it, the richer the sound. Wood, more tin in the pipe, thinner. And these work like the clarinet or the saxophone. They have a little reed. Those are all what we call ranks. And there's 36 ranks in this instrument, 2,739 pipes total like this. And they go from the size of a pencil all the way down to 32 feet, which is as tall as those columns. If you look up in the shadows, there's another grill work that you can see. And this one, if you're up in the balcony, we compete with Massage Envy on that one. Now we have what's called tune percussions, and when you're up in the balcony, you'll be able to see them on this side. That's a wood bar xylophone, metal bar. We have sleigh bells, but we have tuned sleigh bells. Not every horse could say that. We have harps, chimes, and we also have a real grand piano on this side. Guess what kind of piano it is? Wurlitzer. Now we also have sound effects. Very nervous horse. Different bells. One bird, two birds, lovebirds. And if you have a storm, we even have thunder. So the organist's job was then to come and just kind of decide how he wanted the instrument to sound, very much like you're going to an orchestra. The first song that you heard was actually written by a theater organist in New York City, and it was written for Radio City Music Hall. When the ushers used to do their 5 o'clock shift, it was just like Buckingham Palace. The guard that was going off would march to the foot of the stairs, the guard coming on would march to the foot of the stairs, and they would change guards. So what I'm going to do for you, oh well, with my back turned to you, I forgot to ask, are there any questions? Hello? Yes, ma'am.
How long have you played?
Well, if I told you that, you'd know how old I am. But I will tell you that I've been at the Fox before I was born. I have proof. They used to have a photographer that roamed the streets, and they would take pictures, and then they give you a card, and you could decide if you wanted to buy the picture. My mom was very pregnant, and it was a heat wave that summer, and she came to the Fox to cool off. Walking out the front door, they snapped her picture, and you can tell she was very pregnant. That was me. That was 62 years ago. And I've been playing the organ since or piano since I was 7, started on the organ at 12. If Stan Can, I think you all know that name, hadn't have been here, I probably would have never known what a theater organ was. That's why this one has been saved. You'll see his shrine up on the 4th floor. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
How difficult is it to learn to play this?
If you can play the piano, you can play this. It looks intimidating because it's large, but it's actually easier because you have quick versatility, sound changes, and so more of the manuals, more the merrier. Okay? But once you get used to 4 manuals, when you go back to 2 manuals or 1, you get a bloody finger from trying to go up. But question over here.
Are you the only one who plays?
Absolutely not. We have 18 organists that play the lobby organ for patrons as they're coming in before the show. They're all club members of a group called American Theater Organ Society, and that's on the lobby organ. And then there's 4 of us that play this one. But I've been here the longest. Actually, when the theater reopened, they had a program called Monday Night at the Movies. And it started in 1983, and I was the organist for that until Stan Can returned to St. Louis in 1999. Now, I'm going to take the organ down, but I'm going to bring it back up so you can take pictures. But if you look at the bench, I always feel a little sacrilegious for sitting on the bench because it says, Stan's Can sat here, and it gives all the dates of when he was here. So I'll let you see that. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So did I understand you say all the pipes are in the...
Yes, if you'll notice, there's mirrors that go so far behind the columns, and then all of a sudden you see grill work, and these 2 gold, on both sides they're the same. Behind that, on this side is 4 rooms, on this side is 3 rooms. So it's actually 4 stories of rooms that give you the sound of the pipes. They house that 2,739 pipes.
Wow.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I noticed you play with your feet as much as your hands.
Yeah, this is just like the big bass cellos or the tubas or whatever that's down here. Okay, so this is the bass line. That's why to me it's easier than playing the piano. I play this with my foot for the bass line, this with my left hand for the accompaniment, and then my right hand. Piano, you got to do it all. I saw the tour guide's hand back there. Oh, no question. Okay, what we're going to do is you're going to rock around the clock on this one, okay? And this is called Rock Around the Clock. What do you want?
How great thou art.
I tell you, they would give more money if you played that at church on an organ like this. I'll get out of the way. You need a wide angle for me. And you can take pictures, and be sure and look at the bench. If you come down here into the orchestra pit, please be careful of this step, and don't step over here because you'll end up in the basement a story and a half below. And I'll tell you, it's with a broken leg.